Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Viewer's Choice episode of the Patronkast. I am your host, Razor, and with me this time, I have Smokeman, Shad, and Jango. It's the full four-man group. Say hi, everybody.
No.
Fine, that's fine. Fuck you.
You are the show. Be the show. You don't need us here.
All right, no, I am not ever going to do a podcast by myself. We went over this on the Discord last night. I am not going to Alex Jones it. That's not.
Yeah, that's good. Steer away from that that look. That's not a good look whenever you get to that point. Just a man by himself over the internet.
The idea that like you would sit there and like
chemicals in the water making the ninjas purple.
Yeah, making the ninjas purple, making Shao Kahn dumb and MAGA-esque. I could see you doing that.
Tip said that to me a bunch of times. Dude, you should do a solo warrior shrine sometime. And I'm like, what? I mean, no. If anything, it would be you doing the solo warrior shrine. Me, I would just talk about Warner Brothers the whole time.
Well, we might end up doing that in this episode because the topic that our patrons voted for is they would like to hear us discuss what we would do if there was to ever be another Mortal Kombat side game, such as Mythologies or Shaolin Monks.
Or Special Forces.
Or Special Forces.
Such as that, yes.
But I don't know why you would.
I mean, I think that
my answer is totally that I would make a low-rent knockoff of Metal Gear Solid 1. That's my plan.
Where you play as fan favorite Jackie.
Absolutely.
You know, there is a Mortal Kombat side game out right now. It's Mortal Kombat Mobile.
That's not a side game. That's a fighting game.
That's an app.
You know what?
That is true. That is fighting-ish, so...
I have to give the mobile credit. If you look at the graphics and the assets, it's being made by people who are bigger fans of Mortal Kombat than the console games are. And that's a shame.
Mm-hmm.
That might be a good opportunity to clarify what exactly constitutes a side game. I would agree that a mobile fighting game does not constitute a Mortal Kombat side game.
Well, just specifically to be a side game, I would say it has to not be a fighting game, because MK vs. DCU is not a side game. It's part of the main line. It's MK8.
I would qualify it as any type of genre of game well known that is not a typical one-on-one fighter.
Yeah, different genre.
Indeed. And to date, most of the side games have been beat-em-ups, but we'll get to this. One of my votes is going to be something that isn't a beat-em-up. But I kind of want to start with Jango, because...
Don't start with me!
You have mentioned that you had a pitch for a Mythologies 2. Okay. When you were with the guys who were trying to make Mortal Kombat HD.
I did not have. Well, okay, listen. I said I was working on a pitch while we were working on that, and I think some of the other team. I mean, I talked about it with some of the other team guys, and we talked about it. Whatever. Like, yeah, that's cool. But like, it was never anything that we actually got done because we were trying to get the fucking first thing done, not put too many carts before the horse there.
Right, so right. I'm not expecting you to read out a full 20-page game design document or something, but
and we know how well that all that turned out anyway. So no, we never really revisited that idea. I don't think that we've done Actually, I take that back. We haven't talked about doing any other platformers, revisited the idea of doing another 2D platformer until right now, which full disclosure, I'm going to be working on while I'm doing this because I have a deadline coming up. But I can do both. Yeah, Mortal Kombat, Shaolin Monks, not Shaolin Monks. That's another game. What is it called? Mythologies 2. I know what I'm talking
Mythologies
about.
2.
This is why I didn't actually give the pitch. I don't give the pitches at EP.
Which is the one with the guy that dresses in blue and shoots stuff? Oh yeah, Shaolin Monks. Sure, why not?
Yeah. Whatever. He's a Shaolin, right? It's all good.
There are 2 playable characters who wear blue, and they kind of shoot stuff. But no, Mythologies too. So I'm presuming Sub-Zero as the main character.
Absolutely, because these new timeline kids these days, they need to understand that Mortal Kombat is all about Sub-Zero all the time.
It is. It should be. Whenever Sub-Zero's not on the screen, everyone should be asking, where's Sub-Zero?
It usually is.
And I mean, this is the way. That's how Mortal Kombat should be. But it hasn't really been in the new timeline. Like, it's not that he hasn't done anything cool or gotten whatever. He has. We all saw the Tea Party and shit. That was fine. But the new timeline has really played up, like Scorpion, for example, way more. And which is, fine. Even Johnny Cage got a push, which is really good too.
It's more of an ensemble cast type of affair these days, and I do appreciate that aspect of things.
Yeah,
there's a lot of focus given to different character groups.
And as an ensemble fucking franchise, yeah, you definitely need that. But Sub-Zero, I wanted to do it about following Kuai Liang. I think I was calling it Mortal Kombat Mythologies to Grandmaster. I wanted to do let me pull this thing up that I have just so I can look at this. Where'd it go? Boom! Kuai Liang. Kuai Liang chooses his own destiny for the first time as the icy ninja finds himself with no home, no clan, and no family. Following Shinnok's failed invasion at the hands of Raiden and his allies, Kuai Liang searches for a path forward. I'm not reading this. When he's met by the Wind God Fujin, who shows him the truth of his brother Bihan's own mission to aid Raiden against Shinnok's forces. The last mission Bihan would ever complete. Kuai Liang reflects on the symmetry of his and his brother Bihan's circumstance, but refuses to share the first Sub-Zero's fate. I should say that whenever I was putting this thing together, obviously Mortal Kombat 11 didn't exist. So because of that, a big part of the angle, it wouldn't work now, I guess. But who fucking cares? It's Mortal Kombat. They don't follow their own continuity anyway.
I would, if I was making a game, set it in a different timeline. They're definitely like trying to embrace like a multiverse approach, so that when things don't match up, they can just say, "Oh well, it was a different world."
So lazy.
It's lazy, but it's also convenient if you don't want to be shackled to their bullshit.
It is, and I mean that's why it's always happened in like comic books too. Like you get like new writers coming all the time, right? There's like, dude, I don't want to fucking go read every other writer who's ever written this character for 50, 60 years. But that also does lead to conflict and whatnot.
Well, I mean, my position would be, as the human encyclopedia that I am, that I know everything that happened in your timeline, and I would write in that, but I would prefer not to. Can I set my game in the old timeline, please?
Well,
we call the whole game a flashback. Can we do that? It's set before Armageddon. Can we just do it that way?
I mean, you can.
What it is now is like Mortal Kombat's kind of just become like any other DC Comics series, Various writers come up and they take the helm, and notwithstanding all the reboots, people just take what works and they put their own spin on it and they go forward, and it doesn't always work. And the outcry is always so huge because that first timeline made such a gigantic impact on us all. And we have the benefit of like having the definitive version like written by Tobias. It's like,
yeah.
I can't say how like Ninja Turtles fans are. I mean, I kind of like the IDW stuff, but I can imagine that there's a lot of people go, well, this isn't Eastman and Laird, but sure, it works, I guess.
I mean, yeah. I think the funny thing about the Turtles is most people would say their Turtles are the cartoon rather than the original comic book,
there's that too.
For me, it's the '90s movie, the live action one.
For me, it's
not so much the sequels, but. And yeah, the Fox Kids series was great too. A lot of people have attached to the Nickelodeon CGI one,
There have been more good Turtles adaptations than
that's the thing. There have been so many, like, almost every time the Turtles get a different continuity, it has the benefit of some kind of clear direction where, like, the writing team isn't changing every fucking season or whatever. Comic books do not have that benefit. So really, the problem isn't the concept of a multiverse. The problem is that fiction just isn't good if the writers keep changing.
You know,
like,
there's that. And
just
I think
have
the major,
one guy in charge.
There's that, and I think another major aspect of it is that, like, out of a lot of series, like, MK has no fucking concept of, like, character continuity, especially not these days. Everyone's always changing in terms of design, down to movesets and combos.
Yeah, different faces,
so I feel like
different
a lot
costumes, even in the flashbacks, the costumes are wrong.
Yeah, like, I feel like this would all be much more tolerable if at least these characters were consistently identifiable across various timelines as one unique individual per person, you know? That's frustrating. You know, but yes, sorry, Jango.
No, you're fine. Keep going for a second. Let me hit this fan. It's really hot in here.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like I would have difficulty. I mean, you could still do a Kuai Liang game where he goes, like, on the adventure to take over the Lin Kuei from Sector. You can still do that in the new timeline, because that basically did happen in the comic books, and it wasn't that different in the MKX world from what it was in the Deadly Alliance world.
Look, man, I'm getting turned.
But you do miss some things with the fact that this Kuai Liang did not oppose Shinnok. He worked for him as a mind-controlled revenant. That does change the story. He can't go, you know, well, I'm not going to let what happened to my brother happen to me, because it already has. He's on the other side of that.
I think I missed the first part of this.
Yeah. I don't know. I find the old timeline so much cleaner to work with. I think, you know, it's kind of like when I was thinking about what I would do for the answer to this question if I was making a side game. The problem I keep running into is what is the full length and breadth of the plot? Like, what is the status quo of your character going in? What is he trying to achieve? What is his goal by the end of the game? Because I compare it to Shaolin Monks compared to MK2, where Shaolin Monks was supposed to be an adaptation of MK2, but you took a story about 12 playable characters, and you turned it into a story where you only followed 2 of them. And it didn't work.
It didn't work for a few different reasons.
Yeah, but, like, even if everything that they were trying to achieve had been pulled off properly in that game, and it hadn't been written like a weird Saturday morning cartoon version with all of the like 1970s Scooby-Doo-esque dialogue, even if they had, you know, been skilled at writing it, you're still losing everything that has to do with Jax and Molina and Baraka and Raiden. Every character who's not Liu Kang and Kung Lao, their story is just shuffled off to the wayside.
The obligatory one sentence, I think he is my brother.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll see you later.
So you can't just take the plot that exists of one of the fighting games and turn it into a beat-em-up, because every character but 2 of them are going to lose their fucking story.
It's a really easy pratfall to, like, it's a really easy pit to fall into. It's like, it's not just Shaolin Monks that has that problem. Like, that's one of the issues with the Van Damme Street Fighter movie. This is guileless, and everyone else is just either, you know, comic relief or dealing weapons when they should be practicing karate for some strange reason, or, you know, just when you pick one and you go with it, you kind of trivialize everything else, unfortunately.
Well, I would say, you know, there have been several... Street Fighter 4 had a bunch of tie-in anime shorts. And they were all generally focused on a single character, usually Ryu. And that didn't really pose a problem because they weren't trying to adapt Street Fighter 4, they were telling side stories that happen as part of Street Fighter 4, which is the same reason Mythologies worked. It was telling its own story, and its story wasn't terribly high stakes. It was just this one guy's journey off on the side. Like, yes, if he had failed, Shinnok would have had the amulet and would have taken over Earthrealm, but Shinnok never got to the point where he was launching an invasion and there were soldiers in the streets and it got, like, big scale. It was still settled in one-on-one fights. And it still happened largely in secret. Like, most of the characters in the MK universe don't know Mythologies occurred because it was basically... The threat was stopped before it grew to a size where it would actually be a threat.
I was thinking about the timeline thing back when this was going on, and I kind of came to the conclusion that it doesn't really matter which timeline it's in, because the thing that I wanted to focus on and the thing that I thought was important wasn't the stuff that Kuai Liang was doing whenever he was serving someone. The symmetry between him and Bihan stuff is really important too, because this is a Mythologies 2, and I wanted to compare the two characters, sometimes like specifically and obviously, and sometimes not, but I wanted to show their differences whenever they're kind of met with the similar circumstances. And the circumstance for Sub-Zero in either timeline, the thing, and I want to show specifically with Kuai Liang, is what do you do what does he do whenever he doesn't have someone, whenever he's not working with someone or for someone. And in the new timeline, like, it doesn't matter if that was like the Lin Kuei, he was a revenant, or in the old timeline, whenever he was just the Lin Kuei. It's like, no, who are you whenever it's just you and you don't have a master? And I think that was something that the first Mythologies did really interesting, because Beyond got jerked around by people on all sides of good and evil and in the middle in Mythologies. And that's kind of something that comes up and Kuai Liang has to think about too. And that's also why I wanted Fujin to show up. Again, I wanted to pull, I love Fujin. You guys may have known this. I really like Fujin.
If you don't like Fujin, you're a goddamn monster.
It might have come up once or twice.
Well, for anyone who doesn't know, I love Fujin. He's so sick. But he's also extremely relevant. Because this is a sequel to a very specific game that Fujin was in. But I wanted to set this up to where like I said, Kuai Liang doesn't know. I think you said it too there for a second before my computer died. Kuai Liang doesn't know all the details that happen with Mythologies, because no one probably does know all the details there. And Fujin also wanted to go there specifically because even before Mortal Kombat 11, I kind of wanted to paint Fujin in the similar light that MK11 did. And have Fujin go there because, he knew Bihan and he sees Kuai Liang kind of coming up against similar circumstances. And Fujin wouldn't really like the way that Raiden handled Bihan exactly. Not that Raiden did anything like necessarily wrong, but maybe Fujin saw Bihan was capable of a little bit more than Raiden really cared to use him for. And I think that could certainly be true. And I also wanted to... I don't know if I'd ever get around to doing this, but it was fun. I wanted to set up a thing to where Fujin actually did end up having his own agenda, but it was to help he wanted to find a few of Earthrealm's warriors that maybe could help as like a contingency against Dark Raiden. Because again, I did this before Mortal Kombat 11 ever happened. He disappeared. He just went away. Dark Raiden wasn't a problem anymore.
Yeah.
But before that, I wanted Fujin to go around kind of quietly to a couple of Earthrealms warriors who he thought would be helpful in case that time ever did come. And I thought, there's no one Fujin should go to before Sub-Zero. Because Bihan kicked all kinds of god ass in the first one. And if Kuai Liang was anything like that, it's like, yeah, I need this guy. And I can make this guy better than he can be on his own from Fujin's perspective. I can help him out. I can... Maybe if I gave Kuai Liang a little bit of guidance that Raiden really seemed most interested in giving to Liu Kang and White Lotus, if Raiden wasn't that specific, maybe Bihan could have been better. And maybe that's kind of what Fujin wanted to do with Kuai Liang. And Fujin helps Kuai Liang come to the conclusion, encourages him to go back to the Lin Kuei and to build something up and to do something and to become Grandmaster himself, because that's ultimately what happens with Sub-Zero. And in both timelines, that's such a big gap that we don't know what happened. So
that is true.
That's what I really wanted to focus on here. That's why it's called Grandmaster. It's like, how do we get from after Shinnok's invasion to Sub-Zero as the Grandmaster? That's the story. And so that was what I wanted to do as far as story goes, and that game's events.
I would love to see it play out like as like an adventure, as opposed to attack this warehouse and kill Sector right away.
yeah, you know, some steps in the process, some whatever. And I'm probably like, it's still a video game, and I'm talking a lot about different characters and, you know, maybe, like this, showing symmetry between the two, because I think there actually is a lot of symmetry between the two.
Do you think?
I think that Fujin thinks maybe, like, if Kuai Liang goes and just kind of fizzles out when he's by himself for the first time and goes directionless like Bihan did, I don't want Kuai Liang to have that same fate, because for the first time he's in this situation of being alone, having to choose for himself, and that didn't work out great for Bihan. And Kuai Liang that would be a massive waste. He wants to make sure that doesn't happen there. And obviously Raiden's not doing that much to help him now, because Raiden's got his own shit going on, like being a dick. But yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to do there.
I think there would have been a lot of room, or any room at all, for the other elemental gods to have shown up in this.
Oh, please. Like, as many flashbacks as possible. But that's kind of the thing. I wanted to bring them back as important. And I also wanted, like, it's fucking mythologies. So I would want Bihan to go in there. I would want more stuff going on. I would want, at the beginning of this, Razor, hang on a second. I know I have something to say about this, but towards like the first half of this, or maybe even through most of it, I would not mind at all there being a lot of stuff about Fujin and Kuai Liang wanting to try and free Bihan and do the redeem Bihan thing, if that's possible.
I mean, I don't have an issue with Kuai Liang wanting to, because that's kind of, I mean, that is kind of core to his person. He always thinks these people can be saved, whether it's Frost or Smoke or Serena or his brother. He always wants to, help these people out of the darkness.
Except
and
for
some
Sector.
of them can be and some of them can't.
Sector is just a dick. Fuck that guy.
Well,
what?
Sector is not misguided. Sector is just a bad person.
He's a sociopath. He's a sociopath and a pyromaniac.
He actively came up with the idea to turn everybody into robots. It was his idea. It's not like Cyrax, where he's like just made the wrong choice or whatever. There's
really not many characters that Kuai Liang has done that with.
No.
Like, even like Scorpion killed his brother, and he's still like, you know what, Scorpion? It's all right. I'm not going to kill him every time I fight him. He's not my fucking sworn enemy. There's potential with Scorpion there, but fuck Sector. That guy sucks. But no, yeah. I wanted to do that thing and have that be both Fujin and Guan Liang wanted to do. Because, I mean, Fujin was there too. Fujin fucking fought behind and was around for that shit. And if it's possible, they wanted to do it. But I am like you, Razor. I know that Bihan is doing exactly what he wants to do.
Yeah.
He's not like imprisoned in revenancy or being a slave necessarily or whatever. Like, no, he's just living his best life. He's having fun. He's doing what he wants. And
the key is the line from Deception. He actually desired to remain there. Bihan is perfectly happy as an evil wraith, and he does not want or need redemption. Fuck your fanfics.
I mean, yeah, but that's how he fucking is, and that would be a really fun thing to see, like Huai Liang really realize for the first time, and maybe he would through there, or in this game's process or whatever. But still, the main point of the game isn't necessarily Bihan, even though he's around and whatever. It's a thing. It's about him taking the Lin Kuei and deciding that that's even something that he would be interested in doing. Like, I don't know if that. I would like to see how that idea occurred to Kuai Liang in the first place, because it seemed like that wasn't something that he would necessarily do. That didn't seem like the most natural decision coming out of like MK3.
Yeah, like in 3 and 4, it seemed like Kuai Liang was sort of happy to have the Lin Kuei in the rear view and to be his own man.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time you get to Deadly Alliance, it sort of feels like he's been thinking about like his family and like what legacy means. Maybe it's sort of like part of getting older and like thinking, well, I don't know if I'm ever going to have kids, if I'm ever going to have anything to leave behind, like what my, being called Sub-Zero runs in my family. My grandfather was Sub-Zero. My great-grandfather was Sub-Zero. So what does it mean to just throw all that away? Or should I instead try to reclaim it and make it stand for something?
I agree. And I also think that with that, he would be like, listen, especially after hearing all the shit, the more details about what happened in Mythologies and thinking more about his brother's situation, it's like Bihan made the choice to go to leave everything and serve himself. And I don't want to do that. Bihan left not just the Lin Kuei, he left Kuai Liang too. He left fucking everything to do whatever he wants. And so Kuai Liang decides, no, I don't want to leave everything. I want to go back and I want to salvage the family that I had that can be salvaged. Because it's worth it. And that's how you do. I don't want to do it. Like, it didn't work out for Bihan. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go the other way. And I'm going to take that shit back from that dickhead sector. And I'm going to make a community. And I'm going to build something that is beneficial and strong and positive for fucking, Earthrealm and shit, which is what he reformed. What the word reform means, what he did with the fucking Lin Kuei. I really want to see how that story would play out. It would be a lot of fucking fun. And man, we get to see Smoke.
Of course.
Wouldn't that be sick?
I was going to ask that too. It's like, so is there any reason he gave his friend up for completely dead, or what? Or would he have gone to look for him? Or
this is the thing, and like it would be such a great opportunity to get to see a little bit more of that relationship between him and Smoke, and him and Cyrax too. Like all these characters that have a lot of juicy shit that just happened out of the video games that we didn't really get to see, that got skipped over. I'd really like to see that shit. And it's still a 2D platformer, by the way. It's not just a fun, like, interesting story thing. I've been wanting to see it. I don't know how many people want to see that. I know that you guys do, because like know that's a really juicy part of the story that we haven't gotten yet.
So, as far as gameplay goes, I think the key to winning people over is going to be the answer to a few key questions like, is there a button to turn around or not?
No. God, no. Like, why would there be ever? Why was that ever a thing? Well, because it has to play like a fighting game, right?
I think Shaolin Monks has proven that no, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. Every fucking platformer ever has proved that no, it doesn't. You can do platformers with cool combos and shit.
Yeah, generally speaking, with a platformer, you want a jump button. You don't want to press up on the D-pad.
Yeah, a little bit. No.
Worst case, you hold the run button and forward to run forward, and double tap forward or double tap back to turn around. You don't need a turn around button. That's just silly.
You don't have to turn around. Like I wouldn't be beholden to making it play like the old games because this isn't one of those. But I don't know. I understand the wanting to, and I thought, okay, well maybe we could try like a lock-on function if you really wanted to do that. Well, so you could lock on, and you could still do like your back-forward motions and whatnot, and you're still looking at the same enemy.
I'm inclined to think that look. Being the beat 'em up fan that I am, having played all like the Double Dragons and the Streets of Rages, and Shaolin Monks had a pretty good thing going where when you wanted to do a special move, you just held the R trigger and pressed a button and it would come out.
Yeah.
When you want to turn around, just tap backward and you face the way that you're running in.
Yeah, and that worked. I mean, Shaolin Monks also had the lock on too. So
it did.
You could do, it's both things.
Shaolin Monks was 3D, and the lock-on was mostly useful for blocking.
Fighting game inputs typically don't cross over well with like action style games.
No. I would say just make it play like a Streets of Rage type of game, and you're fine.
I wanted to make it play a little bit more like I don't know, something like fucking Mark of the Ninja or something.
Well, actually,
but not as stealthy. Driven.
I mean, because
you're a ninja.
I feel like beat 'em ups actually need to evolve somewhat. I would say that gameplay wise, I mean, we've all played the 2D retro, the throwback things, and the pixel art, and it's all fun, but it sort of gets old fast. What I would want to see from a modern beat 'em up is gameplay that's a little more like Devil May Cry.
Yes.
Agreed. And granted, Devil May Cry is a 3D game, but what I'm looking for mostly is just like the robustness of how many moves you have and can combo with, and maybe even a style meter. Because that is a very clever way of encouraging the player to not just use the same moves over and over.
To do more, indeed.
I've always felt that Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, the what people are calling the character action or stylish action genre these days, is the evolution of the beat 'em up. It just lacks co-op. A co-op DMC would be fucking amazing.
We're gonna get to that when I bring my pitch up.
All right.
As far as gameplay goes, like this is still a game that is a sequel to another game. It's got a 2 in the title, so
right.
I would really want to bring back a lot of things and not completely change the feel of it, but definitely get rid of the shit because shit that's unnecessary. Everybody knows that game is nuts. Shit that just doesn't have to be there. And honestly, like now, if I play Mythologies, I feel like I can feel some like Dark Souls type shit whenever I'm playing Mythologies. It's not just because you die a lot, even though that is a big thing.
Well, I think so. Dark Souls is designed that way specifically because it wants to encourage a playstyle where you memorize like the things that killed you so you know to avoid them in the future. Whereas Mythologies, that wasn't necessarily their goal. Their goal was to sell the guide. They deliberately made a game that's incompletable unless you have the fucking guide, because there are traps in there that they do not warn you about, that there's no indication to, like...
The fucking masher.
Well, at the beginning...
Level 1, god damn it! Smush.
Well, you remember?
I'm a fan of Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest, so like, I'm the wrong person to talk to about that kind of shit. That's retarded, and no dev should ever fucking do that. But
Well, look, I'm just saying, like, there's that fucking ledge in the first level that you have to know. You have to know that you can't just jump off it. You have to, like, jump straight up and tap forward so you can pivot on the ledge.
Oh, listen, I'm with you. I feel like Mythologies
Nobody tells you that.
We gotta fucking make this a quarter eater, man. It's like, dude, this is not gonna be in arcades. What are you doing? Like,
That was pretty much like the mentality that they were coming from. Make everything hard so that the player just plays over and over and over again. It was
Well, you know what? You know what
I
pisses me
still wake
off?
up sweating sometimes because sometimes in my dreams I see a ledge and there's a Shaolin monk standing there waiting. And I'm just on the ledge below.
Come on, buddy, I dare you to jump up here. See what happens.
I know what's coming. I'm scared and I can't do it.
It's just, what pisses me off the most wasn't even the traps. It's that if you play on easy, the game stops at the fire god. It tells you that's the end of easy mode. If you want to get any further than this, play it on normal.
It would be such a fucking dream to have that game recreated properly. Where it's like,
oh, dude, if I could do a remake of Mythologies 1, I would be all over that shit too.
Not even like a remake. I mean, I would just take a patch for the game developed in 2020. I know it's not possible.
Yeah, there's
just so much stuff that could be.
There are guys out there who make, like, retro beat-em-ups out of the old assets. Like, they make new Ninja Turtles games out of Turtles in Time. Or, like, there's a Power Rangers game that's made out of, like, the SNES and Genesis Power Rangers games. I wonder why nobody's just done Mythologies better. Just take Mythologies and fucking fix it.
Maybe you need the source code or something. I don't know.
It's not a bad idea. Like, and obviously this was something that I've thought about and talked with the other guys too. Like, obviously what it looks like is important because it's Mortal Kombat. So what are we talking about here? Is this like a 2.5D situation? Like, how would we come at that? That's probably what we would have done.
Well, I mean, given the art style of the HD project, it was designed to look like the blue screen actors, but it was actually 3D models. It was just really, really good 3D models.
I mean, and that's what we would have done, like, because people did like the character artists on the teams, like, look at how they made shit with EB Games and MKHD, and so I'm like, listen, dude, if people like it, I ain't gonna fuck with that. Sure, go for it. That's what we should do. That's kind of, at that point, if we had a brand, which we didn't, but as close as we did have a brand, that was kind of it. Our characters looked really sick. Their characters looked really sick. I didn't do it.
I think the biggest shame of the HD project not getting made is that those models looked so fucking good.
Mm-hmm. Breaking my heart, man. Breaking my heart thinking about it.
Yeah, ours. That's a
not to mention the soundtrack.
God, don't do this.
Shut up right now.
I'm hurting.
If I at some point, I don't have it anymore. At some point, I was fucking around with this idea and was working on a prototype, but no one is going to be. I'm not showing you part of the prototype right now. I'm not trying to find that. It's not what I'm doing. But what I am doing, I posted that in the host chat there, so you can kind of check out that. I would have liked to do it that way, just because that's my art style and that's how I like to draw shit and do stuff. But we probably would have gone the other route. But if we could do it the other way, you can click on that guy. He should do other shit. I would have really liked to do it in that way. But again, we wouldn't have probably done that, even though that would have been a lot cheaper.
I mean, I don't know if we're going to include a link to this this art that you shared. It's an animated character. It's very Mark of the Ninja in art style, I would say. Very similar to that.
That's same shit. That's the shit I was talking about a minute ago that I'm working on, but it had a similar look. Because I was like coming up with this shit and I was doing like a little prototype to see how it would play and whatnot and experiments. And it's like, yeah, just fucking... Because I wanted to see, like, it feels like Mythologies, but also doesn't feel like shit. And was messing around with shit like that. And I did have something. It wasn't like Devil May Cry because, I mean, I thought about that, but Devil May Cry is a really big stretch from what Mythologies felt like to me. I felt like Mythologies had like a fun. It had a slower pace and a more strategic one, which I thought, okay, I get it. I don't want to lean on that as heavily as as Mythologies did, because that was like the whole game, and it does lead to you having to memorize maps, and like that's what you have to do if you want to succeed.
Well, I think in terms of like what I mean by Devil May Cry gameplay, I just want a lot of moves. Because so many beat 'em ups, they give you like one basically bread and butter string, and you've got one or two air attacks, and you've got like you've got your basics. They mostly play like a Mortal Kombat 1 or Mortal Kombat 2 character.
Yeah. There was some other stuff like we wanted to do a couple different armor sets that changed your stats a little bit and made it feel slightly RPG-ish, but not like make it like a full RPG feeling at all. But like, maybe you could throw in some cryo armor type shit in there. Maybe you could find this other suit, but it mattered. It's not just about how it looked, because it did give you other shit too.
Right.
And
I think,
also equip shit that's like, okay, you can equip this kind of thing, and it gave you his like frozen ice blades, and you can equip some other shit, and it would change that up a little bit too. Stuff like that we thought about. Sure.
I think like in terms of beat 'em ups that are out there now that are close to what I'm thinking of, like when I say that I want more moves. I don't think beat 'em ups have enough moves. I think there are a couple out there that let you buy more moves that have a robust selection. I would say River City Ransom Underground, Scott Pilgrim had quite a bit.
It did, yeah. I agree.
Actually, the River City Girls has a lot of moves too. So definitely, like I guess that's fitting, because all three of those games, what they have in common is they're all based on the original River City Ransom, which was a beat 'em up that had RPG elements and let you buy stuff and increase your stats. And River City Ransom was always my favorite beat 'em up growing up. So more like that, I think, is where my personal tastes lie.
There definitely was going to be like a decent emphasis on combo type shit, but it would have felt a little bit more like Shaolin Monks. So like, you could do a slide, and you would knock the guy over your head, and then maybe you could do some other shit to freeze them there and go back and continue your combo with them, and make stuff that does feel more overpowered than the fighting games, because this isn't a fighting game. You can have more fun. Fuck it. Player's power. That's okay. And you can do crazy fun shit like that. And the prototype shit, like, it was fun to play. It was whatever. It needed ironing out, and it was just like a basic idea, but it was fun. And there is definitely a way to do that in a way that you can have something that does feel like a sequel to Mythologies that doesn't feel like shit. That's not just like, man, I gotta jump to this next Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, and it's just retarded. It's hard as fuck. Like, this doesn't make any sense. You don't have.
I feel like those jumps. The problem with them was that your platform was moving in 3D space. It was an optical fucking illusion designed to trick the player. It was not playing fair.
Interesting take. I thought I'd left Reese's Peanut Butter Cups in like the murk of my childhood. And I played Doom Eternal, and there they are again. Why don't they leave me alone?
But yeah, that's basically Mythologies 2 Grandmaster.
I would have liked to see that.
That would be so much fun. I would love that.
I kind of want to go next.
Okay, go ahead.
So, my pitch would be for, again, like Razor said, the character action game with co-op for a Katana and Molina game. The story would basically be, it would start right as Katana kind of finds out about her true heritage. Like, this is like the first training mission, and it's Katana and Molina. You can switch between them at the same time. And basically, Katana finds the I believe we've talked about it earlier on like maybe a previous episode, but this would be someone who was like high ranking in King Jared's court, and like he tells Katana of like, you know, who she really is, but any like proof of that was like burned because they're like burning the rebel camp, and then she lets him live, but you know, Molina gets to him and eats his face off and shit. I kind of want it to work kind of like in the game Ultimate Spider-Man, where sometimes there are missions with Katana and sometimes there's missions with Molina.
Oh, like it switched between Peter and Venom.
Yep, yeah.
Was that the cel-shaded one?
That was the cel-shaded one, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. In that game, you could play as both Spider-Man and Venom. It would switch between them. And at the end, obviously, Spider-Man would have to defeat Venom. In this game, the final boss is Molina during
Molina has
MK2.
to stop Venom. I love it.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
The gameplay, of course, would be for Katana, like definitely like kind of DMC-ish, with like, you know, using the fan lift to kind of juggle them in the air and like doing a whole ton of like flashy shit with her fans orbiting around her, kind of like that move she had in Shaolin Monks. And with Molina, I kind of envisioned more, I guess less about juggles, like definitely some because of the ball roll, but like something more ferociousness and like crazy teleporting and shit and stabbing people with the size and then like tossing them using the size at other people, and like maybe like a meter, like the more she eats people, like the more like moves you unlock during the fight and shit. And the problem though, I guess with the story is that if Katana's starting to suspect, you would be just slaughtering a bunch of people that you kind of don't want to. A bunch of Edenian rebels for like 1,000 years.
I think my approach would probably be, if I was suggesting like a Katana Molina game, first of all, throw Jade in there, and then you can have more missions where... Because Jade doesn't necessarily...
You guys are fucking killing me here, because my fucking pitch is a Katana Molina Jade action RPG. So we'll get to that, but then I think I'll talk for like 5 minutes, then I'll be done.
I think if you're worried about having too many levels where Katana knows the truth, but has to keep up appearances so she's killing people and feeling bad about it, you can avoid that by giving those levels to Jade, because Jade doesn't feel bad for whatever reason. Like, Jade was apparently always aware that she was from Edenia, but she's too afraid of Shao Kahn to do anything about it, so she'll suck it up and she'll kill the people.
Well, she's also loyal.
Yeah. I mean, she's loyal out of fear, though.
It depends.
Jade is a slave.
It depends on your reading of it.
I mean, Jade is explicitly, like, as of MK9, where they finally gave her an origin story, Jade is officially a slave. Shao Kahn owns her.
See, I never entirely agreed with that interpretation. Mine would just be more based on the old UMK3 bio. I
always felt, even if you go by UMK3, in order for Jade to be at least some kind of good person so that we want to see her and Katana as friends, then her response to Shao Kahn can't be that she's serving him by choice. It has to be that she's serving him because she doesn't want to die.
Well, my perspective is that even bad armies have good people in them.
Audience perspective, I guess.
I think like it depends on why those people are serving. Like, what if Jade is loyal not out of fear but out of like honor or whatever, then who does she think Shao Kahn is? What is her reason for feeling pride in her position? That's
kind of where I'm coming at it from.
I mean, it would be perhaps interesting to explore that if you were going to do it that way. I would want to see that explanation given on screen in order for me to buy it. But yeah, I think that you have less difficulty writing the whole why is Katana still killing these people now if you save that for more towards the middle, or like like, if the entire first act of your game is she still thinks she's Khan's daughter, and these assassination missions she's been being sent on are, she's doing them by choice. Mm-hmm. And then you have her meet the guy who knew her parents and tells her the truth more towards the middle, and that's, like, the turning point of the plot. That's, like, the big, for her, shocking moment that changes everything. That usually you don't do that at the beginning of a game. You put it in the middle or closer to the end of the second act.
And then the more you progress in the game, the more you can maybe fight like Khan's soldiers and stuff, because it'd be like around MK2 at that point.
I would like to see a take on it where maybe Katana is going out at night and putting on a disguise and fighting for the rebels, and Khan soldiers don't know that they're fighting Katana. Maybe you could really do it cool that way. I think 3 out of 4 of us definitely came into this with Katana, Molina, Jade as the big idea.
Yeah. Well, I can describe my pitch really briefly if you want.
Go ahead.
In a little bit of detail. Okay, so like I was saying, mine was more of an action RPG deal. And it wouldn't so much and actually it's a pretty big in scope as the way I always kind of envisioned it, because I would actually start at Katana's like adolescence. I would have her during the opening phases of this game, which would play I think like maybe a modern Final Fantasy game. It's an action RPG. You can equip different fans, shit like that, learn different techniques, experience, skill trees, shit like that. Mm-hmm. And my big idea for this was to not only explore Katana's life as she ages under Shao Kahn and learns loyalty to him and eventually becomes acquainted with people like Jade and Scarlet. It should be as much about exploring Outworld and learning its history as it is about learning about Katana. I'm not sure if this should be an open world deal, but it would definitely be more involved than say Shaolin Monks' series of portals to familiar backgrounds. Ideally, I'd want to actually see, portal backgrounds from, say, the Combat Tomb area, or be able to see the living forest in the far distance from the top of the pit too. I really wanted to be able to explore Outworld. I think I wouldn't have Molina show up until maybe a little over halfway through the game, I want to say. I think that one of the later, around that period of time, or maybe halfway through the game, I'd have her maybe meet Molina and cover a few different missions with her over the course of a couple of years. It goes without saying, eventually, throughout the course of this game, you'd skip time a little bit. It'd be certain events that take place in a year, skip forward a couple thousand years, certain events that take place here and there. And so my idea was through Katana's eyes, you get to see how the Shokan kind of thrive or don't thrive depending on the time of season under Shao Kahn's tyranny, and you'd maybe also get to visit the last bastion of the Saurians to see how few they are in number, see the centaurs out in the plains, just really get a feel for Outworld and all of its races, to really see it as the melting pot of different assimilated territories that it is. I think I'd also like to have a library in Khan's fortress to actually really explore all the lore and see how and when each particular realm was assimilated into Outworld. So yeah, going through this, you'd meet Jade I guess maybe miscellaneous Khan soldiers who will probably die along the way as you go through this thing, and you fight alongside them. You can just switch from character to character whenever you want. Maybe do some cool team up stuff, a la, I don't know, Chrono Trigger tag team moves. That'd be pretty cool.
I really like the library idea because that reminds me of all the ancient texts in Doom Eternal.
Yeah, I think that having Khan's fortress as your kind of base would leave room for this. You could have you could have study periods where she gains wisdom and lore and put that into your skill tree or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I really like that library idea too, because I'm just seeing man, you could come up with such a sick librarian that runs that shit, but like it's Shao Kahn's librarian. Like that sounds hella sad, hella sick.
You can maybe like go underground to the actual realm of Khotan and take on missions from King Gorbak. Maybe get paired with Goro or Kintaro on a mission, and you get like a sense for each of these characters as they're working alongside you. But yeah, I'd have her like meet Jade at a certain point, a little bit past her adolescence, and they grow up together, and maybe it's Katana that's responsible for, you know, bringing Jade under like Shao Kahn's direct tutelage. She elevates her from slave status, perhaps, and you could even meet Scarlet or see the creation of Ermac, depending on, you know, when you think those people were created. I think that the end goal of this would be to just explore Outworld as completely and thoroughly as possible and learn about it as much as you learn about Katana. And, you know, I think you'd also get a sense of, like, how dastardly Shang Tsung is, of course, and behind the scenes, to see him, like, you get, like, hints along the way that he's acting on Khan's behalf to maybe replace Katana because, you know, obviously over time she starts getting suspicious, and maybe he doesn't want her, like, assassinating certain Edenians, and he controls where she goes, and maybe you can take on missions for yourself that are outside of Khan's purview, and that's how you start learning the truth steadily, more and more. And then one day it's, hey, here's your long-lost sister, don't mind the face. And I think I'd have that, like, be one of, I don't know, say a little over halfway to 3/4 of the way through the game. And I would conclude things at the Mortal Kombat 2 tournament. And I think the last thing you would do is cut off Molina's head or something like that. It would be a journey of discovery.
That's fucking sick.
Dan, those Twitter fans are going to be so pissed.
Fuck them.
You know what? We're not saying anything that didn't happen in 1993.
So, man, Molina died. Deal with it. Smoke died. I deal with it.
I'm in.
And I also figured that there'd be maybe, I don't know, a potential way to, like, maybe even see, like, some parts of the Netherrealm. Like through the library, you could, like, even learn about the Brotherhood of the Shadow. It would be just about learning about all the mystical, like, horrific aspects of Outworld and just getting to see the whole place for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's like part of the thing that's really cool about MK is like there's so much shit that you could just like go and explore more, and it would be so great to fucking see that because we don't get to do it more. Places and people that we just haven't gotten the chance to because you can't really do that well in a fighting game because you have like a billion characters you have to look at. But like, man, yeah, just getting to stop and look at something in Mortal Kombat and open it up more and explore it is always really sick and would be hella fun. I'd play the shit out of that. That sounds great.
I'd also use it to like explore the notions of other Outworld gods and what happened to them. If they're still around, if they're not, good chance Khan probably killed a lot of them off.
Probably.
But that's what this whole thing would be about, just understanding Outworld and exploring it and seeing it for yourself and getting a better appreciation of Katana from adolescence to, like, the time that we know her. And I think I'd have the whole prologue be the Sindel suicide and the invasion, Sindel's suicide, and you'd first take control of her as, you know, as an adolescent, like, understanding that Khan is her father and not knowing anything at all about the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would probably start the game with like a like not in Edenian years, but like in terms of how old she looks, like 14-ish Katana in like a training mode where you're being taught by some martial arts guy that Shao Kahn has hired, and Shao Kahn is in the background watching, and that's like this is your tutorial section of the game. And then, like, once you complete that, then he's like, now I'm sending you on your first mission to kill somebody. And you as the player thinking, I'm playing, like, this little, like, tweener girl, and I'm being sent to murder someone. That's how fucked up Shao Kahn is.
It would definitely be a dark game. Absolutely. I wouldn't hold back on I wouldn't make it exploitative in terms of tone, but, like, you would have, like, Kid Katana slitting throats. Absolutely.
I mean, people are used to that. At least in fiction, I'd say.
Well, I would want it. I mean, in terms of tone, I wouldn't, say it's
this wouldn't
anything.
be grimdark or like ultra 80s Dario Argento gory here, but I mean, if we can have like if we can have like ore launching fire through someone's abdomen, sure, why not?
I think in just in terms of tone, like you have the Kill Bill Volume 1, the anime sections with Lucy
That's kind of what I'm thinking of. Yeah,
she's like a little kid when she's killing that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Modern time, like I could really see. On the other hand, though, people reading that or hearing this and be like, "Oh, this feels kind of like Game of Thrones." And I know that's probably not the tone that you're going for, but
well, Game of Thrones is the Dark Souls of television media. Everything is Game of Thrones.
It
is.
What you just said fucking hurt my soul.
I mean, it's not unrelated though, because like fucking what's her name? Like Arya's running around in that shit most of the time, being a little assassin and killing people, which is fine. That much was usually fun to watch. So, I mean,
yeah,
go for it.
And I mean, this is just your tone setter. You get sent on to the first level, and you kill somebody as like young Katana. Then there's going to be a time skip, and she's older. It's not like the whole game you're a 14-year-old girl.
Yeah, like I think a good cue for the time skip would be like her first kill.
Yeah,
does she have it in her? It turns out yes, she does.
I'm picking up that. I think we might be fans of Mortal Kombat ninjas.
I don't even know if it's just about the ninjas so much as it's about the characters that have like the deepest, like longest, most in-depth histories.
I do have a pitch for a game that's not necessarily ninja centric.
Tell me it's a Striker beat 'em up.
Striker is involved.
Oh shit!
Because I was thinking about what I said before about how Shaolin Monks didn't work because it took an ensemble and it made it only about 2 playable characters. And to me, the solution to that is if I was to ever remake Mortal Kombat 3, it would be a role-playing game. You would have a party. There are like 15 to 20 good guys in that game, and you're going to be switching out between 3 or 4 of them mission to mission throughout the game. And I would start the game from Stryker's point of view. He would be the first playable character as he watches the portals open and New York get taken over. And he's, you're like, you have no idea what's going on, and you're just out there fighting like Tarkatans in the streets and watching people drop dead as their souls are sucked out of them. And then, like, this spiritual image of Raiden appears before you and tells you where to go and what to do until you, like, start meeting up with other characters.
Get down!
And I was thinking, like, obviously the first time I had this idea, and I have mentioned it before on the show, was, like, 15 fucking years ago. So I was thinking, like, turn-based RPG, but having seen what they did with Final Fantasy VII Remake and the fact that there are combo videos for Tifa now,
yeah,
I think that's the way you have to do it.
Thank you. I'm glad you understand. Like I used to picture it as like using the active turn battle system with like a hint of like Chrono Trigger or Xenogears thrown in, but like I've come around. I really have come around to the way that FF7R does things.
I mean, I have
games do things.
I have issues with the changes to the story, but I think gameplay-wise, Final Fantasy VII Remake is the best quote-unquote role-playing game that I have ever played.
Don't know if I'd say that. Oh, one more detail I wanted to go over for the Katana pitch. I would actually like to see a realm be assimilated into Outworld. Because it's one of those things that like we know all about, and honestly, our best visual evidence of it is a couple of UMK3 stages, Khan's Tower being in the middle of New York, and MK Annihilation.
It's interesting. Given
I do wonder what it would be like if you're living in Outworld while that's happening.
That's what I want to like actually see. Like, does Does the sky crack open and like you have a sort of blending of skies? Do you just get like materials and pieces of things materializing all over the planet, or do they designate it to one specific area? Does like reality itself unfold and unhinge in a specific zone that incorporates this part of the world within Outworld?
I definitely think, given Katana's age, you could show maybe more than one realm, because she probably was around for the conquering of Zatera. We know that Oshtek was only conquered a couple hundred years ago.
See, that's all I'm saying.
There's a couple you could show, and Katana could even have been like a participant in their Mortal Kombat tournaments or something like that.
Yes, because here we forget the entire notion that Raiden just made it up to protect Earth.
Well, in the old timeline, they specifically say Zatera had a tournament, it lost 10 tournaments. Edenia lost 10 tournaments.
Yeah,
The Mortal Kombat tournament was not invented for Earth. It's been around.
No, it was not. That little retcon always bothered me, too. Hell, I wouldn't call it little at all. That's a retcon. 9 introduced that shit. There were always multiple tournaments.
I mean, it's like, isn't it called like the Tournament of the Elder Gods or whatever? Like, it's their thing.
Yeah, I mean, even in 9, the Elder Gods came up with it. It's just that 9 says they came up with it for Earth Realm, whereas every game before that said that every realm Khan conquered had to lose 10 tournaments.
And 9 claimed it was Raiden's idea, too.
That's such a stupid thing to change.
Yeah.
What?
I know, no reason.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It's
No
over
reason
now.
for
That
whatsoever.
timeline is dead now.
What? Oh, that's dumb.
Yeah, a little bit.
We're
It's
not gonna worry
amazing.
about
We're
that.
still here like 9 years later, and we're just still in shock about all the stupid crap 9 changed for the sake of changing things.
I think it's clear so far every single one of our pitches is designed to either be set in the old timeline or in a timeline of its own that coincidentally resembles the old timeline.
Mine kind of resembles the current.
Yours was designed to fit into either.
Yeah,
And I question how well it would have.
Now it wouldn't at all because Mortal Kombat 11 has happened, and it's like it would be. So it probably just end up being like Shaolin Monks. Everyone loves Shaolin Monks, but it's like it's its own fucking shit.
Yeah, it is.
It's fine.
I think that's sort of what I'm saying is the way to go about it is like make your thing its own shit, and if your shit resembles past shit, that's good too.
Yes, make it like as long as it's like good. That's the first thing.
Yeah,
make it really good, and make it and part of making it good means making it like feel right and fitting with Mortal Kombat correctly.
It's about feeling. It's not necessarily about old is always better than new, because I don't maintain that's a direct case at all. Every game from 9X and 11 have all had moments, each and every one of them, where I've been like, shit, this is a classic MK moment. Every one of them.
Yeah. You have to have that shit, because otherwise it's really easy for it just to become like some other like generic fantasy, like this is Diablo now, right? Like it's a dark fantasy. Like no, there's a Mortal Kombat character that keeps it gelled and it's its thing, and that's really really important.
Right. I just think that for if you're doing your own thing and you're choosing what will tell the best story, you don't necessarily want to reference a whole bunch of people having died before your game started and now they're revenants, or if you're doing Katana's backstory, it tells a better tale if Molina's older than she was in 9. Those aren't necessarily
Garrus.
Those aren't necessarily decisions that are bound to a particular timeline. They're just, if you were telling a story and nobody was telling you what you could and couldn't do, which way would you do it?
Yes.
But yeah, like I've always wanted to see Mortal Kombat 3 in in a context that lets you see multiple characters fighting side by side. Because that story, more than any other in the franchise, has a lot of, like, teamwork. And it's... Because it's not a martial arts tournament, you know? It's an invasion, and these, you know... These characters are fighting together on these little missions, like, you know, Liu Kang and Kung Lao traveling together to get from the Shaolin Temple to wherever the rest of the heroes are to meet up with them, whether that be in the old timeline Nightwolf's reservation, or in the new timeline the church in New York. Even the bad guys tended to travel or work together in pairs. Like, you had Jade and Reptile both hunting Katana. You had Molina and Noob Saibot both sent by Shinnok to be like, okay, you're going to work for Khan, but if it looks like he's going to win, I want you to sabotage him for me. But yeah, I want to see these scenarios where it's like you have Stryker, Cabal, and Cage, like the three of them together fighting like Motaro or somebody like that. I want to see... I felt the same way about when 9 had endurance matches that you would fight against, but it never lets you be the tag team in story mode. And it's like, okay, but Liu Kang fights with Kung Lao all the time. Katana hangs out with Jade all the time. Sub-Zero and Smoke are a pairing. There's a teamwork together. Why can't I use tag mode in story?
Another idea that I actually had, just like running by, like as a quick pick, was I always thought that, like, you know, Sub-Zero had so much to fucking do during 2, and especially 3, and to a degree up to 4 as well, you know? I always felt that you could, like, legitimately, like, Mythologies 2 could honestly be, like, the Sub-Zero story through 2 to 4.
You could probably fill out a whole game, whole
like
beat 'em up of just that stuff for one character. Yeah,
leaving Lin Kuei and all that stuff. Yeah.
Honestly, I might honestly just call it Mortal Kombat Lin Kuei. See, like, how the cyber ninjas were, like, slowly introduced as a notion by Sector, how it might have had Bihan's approval or might not have, and maybe also follow Sub-Zero as a young like Kuai Liang as a young trainee, desperately trying to get his brother's attention, and then one day he goes out for a pack of cigarettes and never comes back.
Yeah, a prequel following Tundra around is something I also thought about. That would be really tight.
I think one of the reasons Mythologies was so great is because at that time, Scorpion and Sub-Zero didn't have much backstory, and that game served to create one for them. And I've always sort of, ever since I heard the idea back in the 90s, Tobias talking about how if he got to do another Mythologies, one of the characters he might do it for is Baraka, I've just been stuck on that for years and years thinking, what would a Baraka game even be about? And it's sort of fascinating.
Get money! Cut bitches!
That's a bold move. Let's see if it pays off for him. Let me I'd be interested.
I just really like the idea of picking a character who is really, like, poorly fleshed out and giving them their own game because it then forces you to flesh them out. It's like, okay, I committed to this. I had no plan. What the fuck am I going to do now? I don't know if I'd be able, personally, to make a Baraka game without stealing the Malibu Blue Baby plot. I don't think I could do it. I think it would have to be about Baraka trying to save the future messiah of Outworld from being assassinated by the forces of Shao Kahn.
Yes! More validation for the best timeline! The Malibu timeline. This is
this baby Tarkatan will grow up to save us. You have to protect its life. What? Why me?
We're counting on you, Baraka.
Oh my god, I would so watch that. A Baraka Noob Cybot sitcom. It's like The Mandalorian, only it's just more shitposting, more angst, even less going right, more inconvenience. Noob Cybot, did you put the baby on the back of the centaur?
You did.
Yeah, so that's all I had.
Yeah.
I guess is that it? Is that all our bitches?
Hard to, like, even going back now, and I know it's a Mortal Kombat 9 thing, but I have a hard time imagining a Mortal Kombat 3 playing out where Raiden just doesn't go full retard at some point and kill. I would really want to see that again and again. Like, as many games that wants to do it, just fucking, he just gets so pissed and doesn't know what to do, and Mataro's dead. He's gone.
I don't know. I mean,
Raiden consults with the Elder Gods, the video game. It's a visual novel.
Richard Epcar
Raiden didn't consult with the Elder Gods. Look what happened.
Richard Epcar Raiden still lives in a box off to the side in my brain. When I think of Raiden, I think of a guy who the Elder Gods told him, no, you're not allowed to interfere. And so he watches, and he's like, fuck it, I'm going down there. Don't do it, Raiden. I dare you to stop me. And
take your mortality.
He shows up and he starts punching bad guys. And, he doesn't stand there the whole time being like, what do I do? Why is my amulet still cracking? I don't know what's going on. That's not my Raiden.
Why'd you break the amulet? I don't know. I broke the amulet. Seinfeld baseline.
It's always really hard for me to, like, get a good read on how powerful Raiden was in the old timeline. Like, just like, after reading other comics and shit, it's like, okay, what power level is this dude? If he's, it's still a fighting game, and you have to let some shit go because sometimes, fucking Robin fights Superman in fighting games, and it's weird. But
well, what's always sort of worked for me is that they always say, well, he can't do this or he can't do that unless he takes a mortal form first. And in a mortal form, he loses some of his power. So we've never really seen Raiden at full power, except for when he blew himself up at the end of Deadly Alliance, the beginning of Deception.
Retroactively, the way I look at it is, he didn't compete during MK1. Like, now he's the mentor figure that we all understand him to be, that, the MK movie showed us, that Scorpion's Revenge showed us. So, like, I think that if he had, he would have, like, whooped ass really easily.
Well,
in MK2, the way I kind of understand it is that when he's in Outworld, his powers are weakened to a degree. There's not as much he's capable of because he's so far away from his home realm. So he's about, I don't know, I don't like to say power levels, but, like, he can beat or be beaten in a fight. And I think that if it came down to, like, Raiden and Shao Kahn at the end of MK2, for example, Kahn would have taken him. Maybe just barely, but he would have taken him.
Yeah, I always kind of figured that that's how it came to be in MK3, that he was there with Liu Kang and Kung Lao heading for the final fight with Kahn, and he took Kahn on first and got beat, and then Liu and Kung Lao stepped in.
Whereas MK3, if the gods had allowed him to interfere, if he'd had the ability, if they're like, yeah, fuck this loophole, I don't think it would have been much of a problem for Raiden to, like, zap entire segments of Khan's invading forces bit by bit.
I tend to think of Raiden because they always say, like, the mortal form thing. I don't think the guy we think of as Raiden, the kind of chubby guy in the cone hat, that's not Raiden. That's a suit Raiden wears. His true form is a thunderstorm.
My favorite...
He's made of pure electricity.
The Jeff Roven novel had a really, really good... had a really good way of describing him. Like, I still consider that kind of the only official source for how the original Kung Lao acted and his character. It's really priceless. because this chapter has like Kung Lao going to like make a pilgrimage up to like see Raiden and consult for training and stuff, and he keeps swearing that on the way up, like it starts raining and it starts getting like worse and worse, and he starts feeling like the thunderclouds have eyes, that he was being watched, and at some point he thinks he catches a glimpse of like a shadowy figure with a conical hat with two glowing eyes, but he blinks and it's gone. That's the essence of Raiden. He's a shadowy power.
I do.
That's how I always imagined shit with like Fujin too, like fucking.
I do wish we got to see a more mysterious side of him.
Or is that just wind? Like fucking a billion whispers and shit, all fucking random dudes on this shit. Like he's not actually a corporeal person, like you said was Raiden.
Well, you know what this reminds me of is if you look at MK Warehouse, the sprite art for the MK3 Graveyard stage. He has an animated version where you can sort of scroll side to side. Look real close at the background when you're moving the trees and the headstones around. Way in the back is Raiden's silhouette just standing there watching.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing until a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I had never noticed it in-game. I saw it on MK Warehouse one day, and I'm like, holy shit, this is the coolest fucking thing.
They had fucking plans back in the day, man. This shit was concrete. Every aspect of the fucking plot was told through presentation visually in terms of text, and oh my god, there's just no.
I can't believe you got me to go to Mortal Kombat Warehouse.
You say that like it's a bad thing.
Dude, it's a mirror into the world I love.
It's yeah.
You sound so dejected.
It's just, I mean, no, like, yeah, I love this fucking shit too. It's like fossils of an ancient but very dead civilization.
Okay, because I was wondering for a second. I'm like, did Murdoch hurt you? Do you feel like you're in a house with someone who robbed you? What's going on?
Can't talk about that.
Show me on the doll where he touched you. But yeah, it's not dead to me. Those sprites are still... That's the real Mortal Kombat. I don't care what just came out for the consoles at any given time. Like, 20 years from now, we could be on Mortal Kombat 15 or whatever, and I'm gonna be still, like, on MK Warehouse every day, looking at those sprites, because that's the real MK.
You know what we gotta do, Razor? We gotta sit down, we gotta develop our own Mugen game. We really do. Gotta decide on the cast, gotta figure out bios we can both agree on, that, like, really perfectly summarize up that, like, you know, events in MK 1 through 4, what have you, and just take the best fucking backgrounds out there, or develop our own and go at it. Call it the MK Mugen Nethercast edition or Lost edition.
Whenever I put together Mugen files, I have trouble resisting the urge to pick songs out that play when you fight each character that are more comedically fitting a theme than actually appropriate, like...
Oh no, don't let shitposting into your MK universe, don't do it!
Well, for example, in the build I have now, when you fight in Scorpion's Lair stage, it plays Hell by Disturbed.
Oh my god. That is...
You know, I don't even dislike Disturbed, but what the hell, man?
That's fucking cringe, dude.
That is a little cringe, I'm sorry.
I think that you just illustrated how...
I do it because it amuses me, not because it's the right music.
and NetherRealm, like, man, this really amuses us. We just like doing this shit. Well, but, you know, on the outside, we're all here like, what are you doing? And they're like, man, that's fucking funny. Fuck y'all.
I would have to have, even in a serious build, when you fight Goro, it's got to be Goro versus Art, not the original Goro's Lair theme. I do like the original Goro's Lair theme. It just doesn't... It can't compete with dun dun down dun dun bum da 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 da.
The problem is MK fights happen so fast, and that song is like a full 5 minutes. You're never gonna get to the end.
It takes a bit to warm up. That's true.
So, is there any other thoughts on any other side games that we could potentially think up or anything like that?
I don't know. I mean, I could sit here and try to pick out characters who have not enough backstory like Baraka does and be like, ooh, he should get a side game. They should get a side game. You know, like, how about the All Sado adventure? You know? Hotaru, Darius, and Dairu the game.
Havoc, the experience. It's literally all the fucked up aspects of Arkham Asylum.
What if
Press
we
the
just...
center D-pad.
What if we remade Deception Conquest, but just Conquest? Shujinko game, but, like, it has a disc all to itself so you can actually make it good.
It's like it's actually own fleshed out game. I was thinking about that. I'm like, you could always just make a full game out of all those side games, like Motor Combat, Chess Combat. Just do like a full game with it.
What?
I would rather have Conquest, though.
Goro is another character I think is very ripe to have his own game. I think Tobias mentioned this as a candidate one time.
I could see a Goro game.
To chew on.
I think you could do a Shang Tsung game that starts like 1,000 years ago, and you see like that he was training to like fight for Earthrealm originally, and see how he sort of fell out with the Earthrealm gods and betrayed them and joined Shao Kahn's forces, and then that middle part where after he lost to the great Kung Lao, he's in the cobalt mines, and there he meets Goro and all that shit.
I think that would be, that would be really fun, because I feel like Shang Tsung does have a lot of complexity and layers that you really don't get almost ever. But
yeah, I mean, it never comes across in the games, but if you really think about it, like, Shang Tsung started out his journey thinking he was going to be a good guy and fight for Earth.
There's this like assumption that, like, because of the way that Shang Tsung is often presented, that he's like another Quan Chi, or Quan Chi's like another him. And it's like, no. Shang Tsung is completely different than Quan Chi, and it's a big part of that is his past and all this other shit that he's had going on over the years.
Yeah, Shang is a human being. He's from China, and there was something that happened in his past that caused him to turn heel. And I'd like to see it.
I bet it was Raiden.
It's something else. It's something else that the Rova novel actually covers. He had a hunger for knowledge. That's the best way that you encapsulate it. He wanted to learn more and more, and then one day he found out that there were other realms out there, and it became less about self-betterment and more about acquisition of knowledge for knowledge's sake.
I feel like there might have been an element to it where he was always sort of... Raiden was the Mace Windu to his Anakin, like the guy who was always disapproving, always sensed, this guy is a little bit selfish, he's not good enough, and the resentment kept building and stuff like that.
See that, but I don't know if I'd have it actually be Raiden. I don't want to have like that syndrome where like one person is responsible for half the events in the universe. Like, I don't know, God or something.
Well, because Raiden is the one who actually, like, trains people for the Mortal Kombat tournament. The other three gods literally don't give a shit. I mean, Fujin gives a shit, but he was stuck guarding an amulet. I feel like the water god, fire god, and earth god specifically stay at home and guard the amulet because this is where they'd rather be anyway. They're like, they don't.
Well, I mean, they're gods, and they must have
maybe
other things to do, and they must have other personalities of their own. I feel like Raiden's already responsible for so many things, and like we've already seen how much of a fucking mistake it was making him responsible for the actual tournament itself.
Well, I
want Raiden to be a character. I want Raiden to be a prominent character in the MK universe, but I don't want him to be like the universe. You know, that's all I'm saying.
Well, you could certainly play him as a character who doesn't show up much, like somebody who's more in the periphery. Like maybe Shang Tsung met him once while he was training. Maybe the real disapproving figure, the real, like, nagging voice who was always like telling him, "Don't do this, don't do that, don't be such an asshole," was Bo Raicho.
I could actually buy that too. I could.
Bo Raicho's another fun character.
I think I actually have a whole fucking mission in this Katana game. Why is Bo Raicho still alive? Well, maybe I'd have that so like she was actually assigned to go and kill the guy because Khan gets word he's actually like training like Shaolin in Earthrealm while still maintaining a domicile in Outworld. So you come back home and like, well, you wait for Bo Raicho to get back as you hear he's going to be back at a certain time. And maybe, like, I don't know, sparing his life is one of the things that starts turning Katana towards that good path, towards that path of redemption. That's a point.
I always kind of wonder that myself, whether, like, Bo Raicho may have had assassins sent after him, whether Katana's ever had any interaction with him in the past like that. That would make sense.
Like, I have to figure that there's reasons that he's still alive and breathing. I don't know if he lives in Earthrealm or not. Deception seems to make it the case that he does. Maybe he's a refugee.
Well, it seems to me like he had a home in Outworld at one point in time, and then something... He started living in Earthrealm, and just staying there when he wasn't training people just all the time, and then he moved back to Outworld after Liu Kang won the MK tournament. Is, I think, what it said in Deadly Alliance, is that he moved back then.
It's all right. I gotta go look that back up.
So maybe there was a point where, you know, he was like traveling for work, quote unquote, between the two realms. Like, he'd go there to train and then he'd come home, and maybe like when Khan started sending people after him, he's like, all right, I guess I'm living in Earthrealm from now on.
Ugh, as if I didn't have enough reasons to drink. I've got to pack up all this shit. 50 bottles of rice wine. Maybe I can hire a centaur.
I would love to see interactions between Katana and Rain before and after she knows the truth.
Oh, shit.
Oh my god, that'd be amazing. Just have him fucking be an NPC wandering around Shao Kahn's castle. Hey, baby. Stop. I've told you about the wink and the gun. Stop.
You know who I am, right? Not yet. Neither do you, bitch.
I'm royalty. You're royalty. We should get together sometime.
Come on, we're Dinian, man.
Don't you know who I am? I know your sense of fashion is quite particular.
Princess.
So much. There's so much room to explore.
Yeah.
I hope we do one day.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head that the appeal more than anything, because there are a lot of good things you can get out of a Katana Molina Jade game, but the biggest one is the opportunity to world build and like create an outworld that's like this huge open map.
Like, do you know what houses of college I skipped when Deception was out? I was at home for nearly a week, and I was barely paying attention.
I missed quite a few myself. That was so where I was that week.
So is that it for us for tonight?
I think that covers it. I'm out of ideas.
Oh, wait.
As am I.
Thing, though, I forgot to say about Mythologies 2.
Okay.
We wanted to have an unlockable character just because that felt like a Mortal Kombat thing to do. And I really did not want it to be Scorpion, even though that's what it's I pushed for Cyrax. I would have really liked to have Cyrax unlockable and fully playable. I like that guy, and that guy really needs some shit, man.
I think if you're doing the particular point in the story where Kuai Liang is taking control of the Lin Kuei from Sector, it has to be Cyrax or Smoke as the second character, yeah.
Yeah, those are the two, and I was like, I feel like Cyrax needs a chance. Just let him do this thing, especially because I love Smoke.
Yeah, actually, going into this, speaking of Scorpion, I was thinking, because whenever you talk about another Shaolin Monks, the first phrase everybody says is Fire and Ice. Where was Fire and Ice? That was going to be a game and we didn't get it. I don't know if I could do Fire and Ice, because I don't know what the story would be. Like, what are the circumstances in which Scorpion and Sub-Zero are teamed up for an entire game? It couldn't be done unless it was a sequel to an existing timeline, and right now, we don't have one of those. The MK 9, 10, and 11 universe just ended. We're about to start a new continuity.
The only thing I can honestly think of would require, like, a lot of tweaking of the existing original timeline, because it would have to, like, be, I don't know, like, maybe a really, really in-depth exploration of the time of the invasion from Sub-Zero's perspective, and you fix things so that maybe Scorpion gets unleashed from hell by Shao Kahn and Quan Chi at the start of this whole thing, as practice for when they actually invade Earthrealm. So we would have to kind of start in medias res with Scorpion, with Cyrax Sector and possibly Smoke already chasing Sub-Zero, and then Scorpion is freed and he starts working for Shao Kahn, and then, like, Chapter 3 of the game, wait, that's the guy I swore to protect. I quit. So then they start working, like, side by side to stop the invasion while everyone else is doing their own thing.
So your Fire and Ice,
see this working.
Your Fire and Ice is MK3 from Scorpion and Sub-Zero's point of view.
Kinda, yeah. Maybe tail end of MK2 into MK3, because it fucking, like, it can't realistically be like MK4 at all. And maybe, I don't know, like, if it's a fucking co-op game, it sure as fucking hell can't be MK1.
Yeah.
No.
I feel like
3 is the only time I can see them working together, period.
I feel like it would have to be the scenario where Kuai Liang and Scorpion are on the same side from the beginning to the end, because in a co-op game, like, if you're playing 2 players, both players are playing the first level, right? You can't necessarily tell a story where they start out not together and then meet in the middle. So I would have to say, I mean, it would certainly be easier if it was set in a new timeline after X, if 11 hadn't happened. That's certainly an area where Hanzo and Kuai Liang would be teamed up on a mission.
That's what I was going to say. Like, I have a really hard time imagining a Fire and Ice or anything, like, on it, like, Scorpion related, that's sort of like a team up or other genre thing that isn't, like, new timeline Hanzo, because I really like new timeline Hanzo. Fuck time.
I could.
It's tough, but, and I mean, I could imagine you could do a thing of them, like, I'm not sure when Hanzo successfully, like, built up the
Shirai Ryu,
the new Shirai Ryu, and how that time how that time compares in the new timeline, really. But I don't know. I would probably want to do current timeline Scorpion and Sub-Zero, though, like between MKX and MK11 or something, and just have them doing something that we didn't get to see, something new.
I mean, if I sat down and I really, like, thought about it, I could come up with something that would fit with my existing post-Armageddon pitch, where it would be a Sub-Zero and Scorpion after Armageddon, maybe teaming up against a collection of people like Sector and Noob Saibot, who had been put together by Dark Raiden, because maybe Dark Raiden had come to them and was like, "Warriors of Earthrealm, I want your help defeating the forces of Edenia before they destroy us all." And Sub-Zero and Scorpion are like, yeah, why are you wearing all black and with the red energy, and why are you hanging out with those guys? And since when are Edenia the bad guys? There's just too many questions going on here. This doesn't make any sense. And Rain's like, you dare question me? Well, screw you then. Hey, Sub-Zero, fight your brother. He'll work for me. He's not going to sit around questioning things. I could maybe throw together a pitch for that, but obviously that timeline is not one that exists currently.
I mean, the Fire and Ice chapter in Mortal Kombat 11 was pretty tight. It's probably my favorite chapter.
It was good. I liked it.
Oh, easily. Really easily. I mean, talk shit about MK11 all you want. There's a lot to talk about, but, like, actually having seen, the Cyberlin Quay labs, seeing them work together, watching them knock the fuck out of that poor lone guard in front of the area.
Just stabbing and
they
stabbing.
Went
He's
to
already
for
dead.
Like 10 seconds.
He's dead. He's dead.
Stop.
That probably was the best chapter in the game. I mean, you got to see interactions between Sector and Sub-Zero, Frost and Sub-Zero, Noob Saibot and Sub-Zero, Noob Saibot and Scorpion. This is the first and only time in franchise history that there has been dialogue shared between Scorpion and Noob Saibot. How did it take that long?
Has there been dialogue between Scorpion and Sector?
I think that's the first time for that, too.
Yeah, that shit was tight, too.
I mean, Sector was there in 9 when Cyrax was yelling at him and they had the tag team, the endurance match, but Sector didn't say anything. But yeah, so that all those character interactions, I wish there was more of them. Certainly, I wish that chapter was much longer. It feels a little rushed, but those are all sort of the best parts of the story right there. So you could easily create a context for Fire and Ice. I just don't see one that exists now, and so I didn't have a Fire and Ice pitch going into this.
I suppose one way to look at it, one way to really look at it, would require a bit of bastardization, of course. It could maybe be like the Takeda game. It would explore the origins of the Shirai Ryu. Maybe he partners with the Sub-Zero of that time.
Oh, so it's
like a distant ancestor.
Takeda, the original, the founder from the feudal era of Japan.
What does it say that's still who I think about when I say the word Takeda? Holy shit.
Anyway, I admire your ability to not be distracted by lesser copies.
I'm just saying, there's a timeline in my head that I associate certain words with, and Kid G.I. Joe ain't it. Sorry. Yeah.
I wish there was more context for why he's named that.
There just isn't any.
Like, they just treat it like a coincidence.
It's a phrase you could use a lot in a lot of these things.
Giving them the benefit of the doubt, I think they expected us to pick up on it, and for what it's worth, I did. Thank you. Okay?
I feel like they may have played that one way too subtle. Which is not how they usually do things.
Yeah, that's not one of them usually.
When I saw the name, I was like, okay, nice. But that was about it. But anyway, like, I suppose that you could go back to the start of all this and develop a not quite completely hackneyed story about Takeda, the original, using some specific brand of, like, Lin Kuei fire magic working alongside the Sub-Zero of that time, and make that your Fire and Ice. I could see that as a possibility.
Like the split between them and him leaving to form...
Yeah, like the circumstances and situations which result in Takeda becoming disillusioned with the Lin Kuei. Maybe he thinks that, they're not exactly the most honorable clan. He's become disillusioned with them, which he's entirely right to. So, like, he takes what he's learned and he goes off to form his own clan. With,
I feel like
Blackjack and Hookers.
I feel like it's tied into Japanese history, that it has something to do with the actual origins of the ninja as, like, politically, that was there was a call for mercenaries, and here was an opportunity to profit and to, like, start this thing. And maybe he had, like, an opinion about his homeland situation, and the Lin Kuei was like, who cares about Japan? You work for us. You take the missions we tell you to take. And he's like, how about not?
An MK story rooted in real-world politics would be something, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would be a really interesting thing to see, because it bothers me when they try to lean away from the real world and they invent things like the Botan jungle and Arctica.
The Matoka. God, that shit bothers me.
Where the fuck is the Botan? That's not on any map I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, John Tobias set that shit in the real world. And that's the parts I want to see.
That's the thing. I mean, I would really like that shit. Like, the closest thing I can think of, like, we've gotten that so little. I think about, like, Sub-Zero's Chinese hat level. It's like, hey, that was kind of Chinese. That's sick. But, like, no, but to actually do more and have, like, get to see how events in Mortal Kombat happened that were affected by actual history and vice versa, both, and have them working together, that would be really cool. I would like to see that.
I don't know in what context you'd be able to show this, but I've mentioned before, I've always wanted to see, like, how the world reacts to finding out that magic and monsters and other dimensions are real after MK3 and 4.
Widespread suicide, civil war, riots.
Yeah,
a
like,
a UN conference hosted by Raiden.
The religious implications alone would destroy entire civilizations.
I feel that has a very, like, whenever Asgard was above Oklahoma vibe.
Yeah, like...
Just listen, it's not that one was more right than others. It's that, well, shit happens. There was a Jesus, he just wore a Chinese hat. It's all we're saying. Please, calm down. When Jason Todd actually, like, died in Ethiopia and not, like, fake Bekistan.
It was...
I've always can't.
There was something about that plot, like the Joker had become an ambassador for Saudi Arabia somehow.
It was even better. It was Iran.
It was Iran.
It was Iran.
He was pulling a Sergeant Slaughter.
Ayatollah had actually contracted him to wipe out the UN with Joker gas at a meeting.
Comics are weird sometimes. The only reason
he survived was because Superman sucked it all in and then, like, went out and spent it out in space.
You remember that time Captain America confronted Richard Nixon, and Nixon committed suicide in the office, and that's why he stepped down from being Captain America and started calling himself Nomad.
What?
I think I read that issue.
I gotta read this shit.
It was... I don't think they said his name, but it was obviously Nixon.
Oh, man.
I mean, I'm not surprised.
It was, like, very, very, like, veiled, like you saw him from the back of his head, but it's totally Nixon.
I mean, I am surprised that it was a Cap comic, but, like...
When
okay, all right, cool.
When comic books get real world, it's weird.
All right, I think that we've deviated from the subject matter long enough.
Yeah, we have. I think
Smokeman has in fact left us because something came up, so he couldn't stick around for the conclusion.
Yeah, he couldn't hang out and say goodbye, but that's all right. He'll be back next episode. He's got nowhere better to be.
Ouch.
I mean, we're here too, so...
Lots of good stuff coming up in the near future, folks. Lots of good stuff.
That's actually true, for once. Sometimes we say we're going to get faster, and then we don't. This time we actually have things in the pipeline.
I ain't saying shit ever again.
Well, that's probably for the best.
Yeah, it is.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night, folks.
See you later, nerds.